Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Weekly Academics, and today we'll be doing the further part of geography maps of India. As I mentioned in my previous podcast on map of rivers and water bodies, in this podcast I'll be doing map of mountains and passes and the map of wind directions, latitudes and longitudes. I suggest that you listen to the podcast of map of rivers and water bodies before you listen to these, because I'll be referring to a lot of rivers to explain where to mark which mountain range and how to mark it, how close to the river, how far from the river. I'll be using the rivers as references. Okay, so let's begin. In this, I'm doing first the map of mountains and passes. The first, again, we follow the same pattern. We'll go in a clock pattern. In this case, I'll begin with west because there is no particular south when we talk about mountain ranges. So we'll start from west, north and then the east. Now, beginning with the west, number 1 is Western Ghats. Western Ghats is to be marked along the western coastline of India. Now this it should not touch the western coastline. The Western Ghats should not touch the western coastline. And they should be very close to these 3 rivers, that is river Godavari, Krishna and Tungabhadra and Kaveri. It's because these rivers originate from the Western Ghats. So you have to keep that in mind while you are marking it. And it should not touch the coastline completely. There should be a small gap. Now while marking it, where do you start and where do you end? You start exactly from where river Godavari starts. A bit, 1 dot above, it's fine. But you start from where river Godavari starts, as you can see on the map of the screen. You're not supposed to touch river Tapi. Western Ghats do not touch river Tapi. Okay, so you start from river Godavari and then you go down even below river Kaveri. But there is a prominent gap, there's a very significant gap between the southern tip of India and the end of Western Ghats. So you're not really going to stretch it till the complete southern tip. There has to be a very nice gap between these two, as you can see on the map of the screen. Okay, so that is Western Ghats. Number 2 is Satpura Ranges. Now Satpura Ranges are towards the north of Western Ghats and they're exactly between river Tapi and Narmada. So you have to draw a line between river Tapi and Narmada. Now from where to start? Exactly like the Western Ghats, you leave a bit of space between the coastline and the begin point. And then you stretch a horizontal line from there until river Betwa. If you just draw a dotted imaginary line for your understanding and stretch it to Tapi, where it will come, till that point you stop. Okay, so it should not go beyond that. It's not a very wide range. It's not a very long stretch. Just a short one. Even smaller than river Tapi actually. Okay, so that is Satpura Ranges between Tapi and Narmada. Then comes the Vindhya Ranges, which are above river Narmada, towards the north of river Narmada. Now while marking these, again you begin from the western edge. You do not touch the coastal edge, you leave some space and then begin from there. And you stretch a horizontal line a bit more than river Betwa. Like you cross river Betwa, you mark like 1 or 2 millimeters ahead and then you stop. Okay, that's the range. Again a horizontal line. It should touch river Chambal and river Betwa and stop a bit ahead of river Betwa. You'll understand this very clearly if you see the map on the screen. Now after Vindhya Ranges, towards the northwestern side of India comes the Aravali Ranges. Now Aravali Ranges are in a very dry patch, so you won't really find rivers in that patch. You just have to mark a line between towards the left of river Chambal, and it should be not really towards the Indian border. Okay, leave like some gap between river Chambal and Aravali Ranges, a significant gap, leave it. Like we left a gap between Western Ghats and the southern tip. Leave almost that amount of gap and then you draw a line. Now all these lines are supposed to be freehand lines. None of these lines are to be drawn with a scale. All these are freehand lines. And Aravali Ranges are not exactly completely straight. They are a bit curved. Slightly curved. Okay. So you draw, as you can see on the map also, they're slightly curved. So you draw the Aravali Ranges to the left of River Chambal and you leave a significant amount of gap over there also. Okay, and you stop, you do not make the ranges enter the state of Gujarat completely, and you do not even stretch it completely towards the northern side. It has to be very restricted to the northwestern region. Then coming to the northern side, that is Himalayan Ranges. Now Himalayan Ranges is a vast stretch of range. It's a long line which covers exactly from the western end to the eastern end, as you can see on the map. Now you need to remember that all the tributaries of Ganga, they originate from Himalayan Ranges. So that's how Himalayan Ranges has to touch the points of these tributaries. Okay, even the tributaries of Indus, even they originate from Himalayas. So even they are supposed to touch the range. So you start from river Jhelum, the point where river Jhelum is, a bit above that, start from there. As you can see on the map, it starts above river Jhelum and then touches all these rivers. At some point it touches all these rivers and you go on along the border of India. Along the border of India you go on, and then through Nepal you go to Sikkim and you connect it to the northeastern states. Now where do you connect it to the northeastern states? You cross Bhutan, you cross Sikkim, you cross Bhutan. It does not touch the Bhutan boundaries, it goes like from middle of Bhutan. And then you touch the northeastern states. That's it. No more. That's till where you are supposed to go. Okay. It will touch the point where river Brahmaputra enters India. For a reference, it touches the point where river Brahmaputra enters India. Okay. So be very careful, okay, because in the northern side children tend to get confused. Even I used to get confused between the country boundaries and the rivers. So the boundaries are always dotted lines, so be very careful with that. So your Himalaya Ranges has to stretch from river Jhelum in the northern side, northwestern side, to along the boundary of India, through Nepal, Sikkim, through the middle of Bhutan, and then it touches the point where river Brahmaputra enters India. Leave like some gap, and just below it, if they ask you to draw the Shivalik Ranges, leave some gap and almost parallel to it you can draw the Shivalik Ranges. But then the Shivalik Ranges in the east, they end till Bhutan only. They do not cross Bhutan. And there is a gap also between them. There is like a small gap. They do not touch Bhutan, nor do they go beyond Bhutan. And on the eastern side, just till the Indian country boundary. So from the country boundary till the eastern boundary, you do not touch or go beyond Bhutan. And almost parallel to the Himalayan Ranges, that will be your Shivalik Ranges in the north. Now going again to the northern side of Himalayan Ranges. So it's like Shivalik, then Himalayas, and then in Kashmir there is Karakoram Range. Now if you see, Karakoram Range is parallel to the downward sloping diagonal of Kashmir. Kashmir has two ears and between them there is a downward sloping diagonal. So it is very parallel to that diagonal. You start from where that diagonal starts and you end. You go like a straight line and you end where it takes you, but within the Indian boundaries. Okay? It's very easy to draw Karakoram Ranges. And then now that Karakoram Ranges are done, it's very small, it's very easy to draw. We've done the west, we've done the north, now we come to the east. In the east, there are the Eastern Ghats. Now, Eastern Ghats are not continuous like the Western Ghats. So they break. And the gap between Eastern Ghats and the Western coast is also very big. Not like the Western Ghats. It's not that close to the coast. Okay. So, how do you draw the Eastern Ghats? Now, there are three rivers, right? In the peninsula part of the country, there are three rivers. Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri. So you start from above Godavari. As you see, you start from above Godavari. You draw a line till Godavari. Leave a gap between your mountain range and the rivers. It should not touch the rivers. Then there is a small place between Godavari and Krishna, between where Godavari and Krishna deltas. Okay. on the eastern coast, all these three rivers have their deltas, and there is gaps between these deltas. So in the gap between the delta of Godavari and Krishna, you draw your second part of the Eastern Ghats, which is a very small part, just a small brown line, and then you come down, and then you start again from below Krishna till Kaveri. Now you see there is like a cup in the river. If you see, while in the river Kaveri, you go take that line into that cup. You do not keep it along the coast. It goes far from the coast. Okay, so you take that line into that cup. So there are three pieces of Eastern Ghats. Above Godavari, between Godavari and Krishna, and then between Krishna and Kaveri. It ends there. It does not go beyond Kaveri, and it does not touch any of these three rivers. And there is a wide gap between the mountains and the coast. Okay. Now, the last range left, I am sorry I missed this, but it's in the northern side. The three ranges in the northeastern side of the country, that is Jaintia, Khasi, Garo, or Garo, Khasi, Jaintia as you call it. So where we ended our Shivalik range, okay, after that there is the river Brahmaputra. Okay, now a part of river Brahmaputra is below Bhutan. Now this part below Bhutan, you draw these three ranges below this part of river Brahmaputra. It's exactly below river Brahmaputra in the state of Assam, Meghalaya, that region. And then there are like three, you just draw three dashes. The first dash will be Garo, second will be Khasi, third will be Jaintia. You can see that very clearly in the map. Okay, so that is Garo, Khasi, Jaintia. So these are all your mountain ranges. Now there are two important peaks that we have. One is the two important passes that we have. One is the Karakoram Pass. The Karakoram Pass obviously will be in the Karakoram range. So like we followed the diagonal, right? The downward sloping diagonal, where that downward sloping diagonal ends and then an upward boundary begins. That point is the Karakoram Pass. That point is the Karakoram Pass. And then the second pass is Nathula Pass. Nathu space La, that's the name, Nathula Pass, which is in Sikkim, like exactly on the national boundary of Sikkim. On the northern side, you draw the pass. Pass is always drawn with two straight parallel lines, vertically straight parallel lines. That will be your two important passes, but be very careful while marking these passes. It is very important to mark these passes correctly. Okay, now that we've just a quick recap of all the mountains and the passes. The first one from west goes to be Western Ghats, then you mark Satpura, then Vindhyas, then Aravali, then Shivalik, Himalayas, Karakoram. Karakoram range has the Karakoram Pass. Then the northeast you have the Nathula Pass. Then below river Brahmaputra, in the space where Bhutan comes, there is Garo, Khasi, Jaintia, and then in the eastern side there is Eastern Ghats. So that is our mountains and passes. Now moving on to the next map that I said I would be doing, the wind directions and the latitudes and longitudes. Now this is very, very important to map and the most easiest map to draw, most easiest markings. Okay, now we'll first do the winds. There are three important winds that we need to mark: the southwest monsoon winds, the western disturbances, and the northeast monsoon winds. Okay, now the southwest monsoon winds are coming from the southwest, so your arrows should be from the southwest towards the northeast, from southwest towards northeast, as you see in the map. Now southwest monsoon winds has two branches, the Arabian Sea branch and the Bay of Bengal branch. Whenever you are asked to mark the Arabian Sea branch, mark only Arabian Sea branch. If you are asked to mark the Bay of Bengal branch, mark only the Bay of Bengal branch. You never need to mark two. Only and only if they ask to mark two, you mark both. And both of them need to be different. You cannot join them. Okay, so while marking the Arabian Sea branch, you mark it very clearly, very significantly in the Arabian Sea, and the Bay of Bengal branch very clearly in the Bay of Bengal. The direction remains same, from southwest to northeast. Okay, now the second is the northeast monsoon winds. Now this will be coming from northeast towards the southwest. Okay, and this has to be marked in the Bay of Bengal, only. Okay, this does not have like branches over here. It's only one, and you mark it in the Bay of Bengal. You can like mark it below the delta region of the Bay of Bengal. You can mark it below that, directing from northeast towards southwest. So your arrowhead will be towards southwest, and for the southwest monsoon winds, your arrowhead will be towards northeast. And the last one is the western disturbances. Now western disturbances is to be marked in the northern India, which is coming from the west. Now western disturbances is coming from the west towards the east. So your arrowhead is towards the east, your arrow is coming from the west. It has to be a straight horizontal line marking an arrow from west to east in the northern side. You can mark it, just make sure that you mark it above Rajasthan. If you want, you can mark it in the zone of Indus rivers and its tributaries. That's the best place to mark it, in the zone of Indus river and its tributaries. Okay, so these are the three winds: southwest monsoon winds, northeast monsoon winds, and western disturbances. The two remaining things now, the latitude and longitude. Now when marking the latitude has to be a freehand line. It is not completely straight, it is a bit curved. Okay, and that will be Tropic of, yes exactly, this is the Tropic of Capricorn. No, it's the Tropic of Cancer. I did that purposely. It's the Tropic of Cancer. Be very sure, okay, while you're doing this, Tropic of Cancer is in the northern hemisphere, Tropic of Capricorn is in the southern hemisphere. It's very important. And while marking the latitudes and longitudes, it is very important to mark their degrees also. Okay, it is very important to mark their degrees also. So the latitude is Tropic of Cancer, and that will go a freehand line which starts in northern zone of Gujarat, very close to the country boundary, stretches in like a slightly curved line towards the northeast, and it touches in the peninsular zone of the northeast region. The small three peninsulas, it should cross that, as you can see in the map. Okay, and it should cross Chambal Betwa zone. In the middle, if you want a reference, cross Chambal Betwa zone, touch the upper half of river Damodar, and then go. Okay, but it has to be a bit circular, cannot be exactly straight. The second is the longitude, that is the standard meridian, Indian standard meridian. This is a straight line but a bit of a slanted line. Now this has to start from beside Kashmir, does not touch the eastern side of Kashmir. There is a gap, there is a significant gap between the boundary of Kashmir and this standard meridian. So you take a line, this has to be a straight line, but here if you want you can use a scale. I would prefer it being a freehand drawing, but if you're comfortable with a scale, here you can use a scale or a ruler. You take that line from north beside Kashmir, and then you stretch it exactly to touch the boundary of Sri Lanka. It should not go inside Sri Lanka. It should just touch the boundary of Sri Lanka. There's no way it's going inside Sri Lanka. So that is the Indian standard meridian. Just to revise, the three winds, southwest monsoon winds, Arabian Sea branch, Bay of Bengal branch, then there is the northeast monsoon winds, then there is western disturbances, and then there is Tropic of Cancer and the Indian standard meridian. And we did in this podcast, so we've done the winds, latitudes, longitudes, and the mountain ranges and peaks. Now in the next podcast, I'll be sharing some small tips regarding the maps while drawing the maps. Some small very important tips which come in very handy while doing it in the exams. Until then, if you want to listen to something very light, something soothing, something very relaxing, you can listen to Suno Meri Awaaz by Faiza Inamdar. As I always say, it's something that keeps me going, something that energizes me again. And I'll come back to you soon with the small tips and tactics of marking maps. Until then, you're listening to Faiza Inamdar on Weekly Academics, and I'll get back to you soon. Till then, take care, be healthy, and all the best. I hope your exam starts soon.